Well, hello everyone. Welcome. Today we are beginning our study of the seven seals of Revelation. This is an exciting one, isn't it? And I have named this one Unveiling the Archer on the White Horse, the Power of Subjugation. And we're going to take a look at this rider on the white horse, and there's some really important clues. And I'm going to begin by reading Revelation 6, 1 through 2. And it says, "Now I watched when the Lamb opened one of the seven seals. And I heard one of the four living creatures say with a voice like thunder, 'Come.' And I looked, and behold, a white horse. And its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him. And he came out conquering and to conquer." So Jesus here, the only one worthy, begins opening these wax or clay seals. He's marking the beginning of the final 7 years mentioned in Daniel chapter 9. These seals actually signify the importance of what's inside the scrolls, and they keep the scrolls closed until the appointed time. Just as there are 7 final years, okay, there are 7 days of creation, and there are 7 seals. Because 7 actually represents completeness. That's the idea here. So, it is all chopped up into sevens in Revelation when you look at it. So, the 4 living creatures in verse 1, these are interesting. They're first introduced actually in Revelation 4, 6 through 8. They actually represent the highest order of angelic beings, probably cherubim or seraphim. Revelation 5, 6 through 14 describes their heavenly role. Okay, these angels, they lead worship around the throne of God with harps, where they worship day and night, and they possess and restrain all that the prophets ever prophesied until their release at the appointed time. They hold and protect in a golden bowl the incense or prayers of God's people, so that they're near the Lord. They're around the throne, these prayers. They command John, "Come and see God's justice," when the Lamb opens the first 4 seals. And then finally, we see them in Revelation 15:7. One of these angels unleashes the last 7 plagues of God's wrath on mankind. Okay? So that's their role in this. So here we see John looked, right? And what is the first thing that John notices? He notices this white horse. And this man here, he is the Antichrist. He's going out conquering and to conquer. The white horse actually represents victory and conquest. It doesn't represent purity in this context, right? He is on the same colored horse as Jesus in Revelation 19. And that may indicate, okay, that he's some sort of substitute for the true Messiah, maybe a savior of sorts. Some believe that this white horse actually indicates deception or peace, which does agree with Daniel 9:27, the peace treaty, right? But John describes him with a bow, all right? Jesus has a sword coming out of his mouth. And our King Jesus actually possesses real crowns. And this worldly victor, the Antichrist, has only a laurel wreath. Okay? So you can see the difference. There is the earthly crown, and then there is the heavenly crown. He is depicted, though, as an archer. Okay? And I very rarely hear him depicted this way, as an archer, but he has a bow. He's ready for battle. That's how he shows up. His entrance on this white horse actually begins this final 7 years of death and destruction. The same rider that Paul refers to in 2 Thessalonians 2:3 as the son of perdition, which literally means the son of destruction because he is destructive. Okay? But not only is he destructive, this man is very deceptive, right? He uses flattery to gain access to the kingdom. In other words, he uses deceptive promises to win over supporters in Daniel 11:21 through 23. In verse 21, it describes him as a contemptible ruler who does not have a legitimate rightful claim to the throne. So, okay, there's different explanations for that. Maybe he was not a politician until he won the election. Maybe he stole the election. Or maybe he gained his position through dishonesty, right? Or any combination of these things. But in any case, he's not he doesn't have the right to claim it because he didn't get there by honest means. That's the idea. So verse 23 tells us that when an alliance is made with him, he acts deceitfully. That's how he is. And he will become strong with a small number of people. Okay? What is a small number of people? I mean, that's rather subjective, isn't it? Does the small number of people mean a cabinet of people? Does it mean, a number of people that voted for him? But, I mean, in all honesty, you could make it seem small when he ends up becoming the world ruler in Revelation 13, right? So how do you not start out small and then basically become a world ruler, which is much larger? So it would be a small number of people, almost any way you slice it up, But the deceptive destroyer appears ready to do battle with a bow. Right? His bow is likely symbolic for his confidence and self-esteem, as a bow really does make anything possible. A bow is an offensive weapon. It's a tool to extend the power of your body. That's what it does. It's a powerful weapon with deadly accuracy, allowing the archer to safely and discreetly strike from a distance. An archer's conquest requires patience, skills, strategy, and precision, right? And honestly, if you think about this, with an archer, they can maintain a very safe distance, right? Combined with the arrow's silence, this actually conceals their identity and location to the target. So this actually gives him safety and time to contemplate and identify areas of weakness and vulnerable targets, making the archer's next target unknown and sudden. See? While he is an archer in John's description, there are no arrows, and there are different ideas behind the fact that there's no arrows. They either do not exist, or they can't be seen, or possibly he does not receive them until he takes office. We don't know. But the archer is a military conqueror, according to John and Daniel 11:38. A lot of people would say, oh, he doesn't use military. But he does. I mean, in order to subjugate, it does require spiritual tactics and physical tactics, doesn't it? It requires both. So in Ephesians 6, we're actually told to use the shield of faith to defend against the flaming darts of the evil one. Who has flaming darts? Satan does. So this man, likely has flaming darts, just like the enemy. He has a bow, but the fact that we cannot see the darts doesn't mean that they're not there, The bow actually gives him authority, power, and ability to use spiritual darts, darts of deception, pestilence, doubt, hate, and anything that causes division and destruction. You know, when you look at darts, you know, being spiritual, I mean, are they lies? You know, sometimes our mouths are like darts when you think about it. You know, the words that come out of our mouths, they can cause destruction. They can cause all sorts of things, right? But this lawless man is a military conqueror. But, you know, he doesn't really need physical arrows. That's the point. You know, he can use these spiritual arrows, right? But the military battles on behalf of its leaders. You know, our leaders actually sit safely and securely from afar. As with any conqueror, right? There is a component of warfare that employs methods such as deception and diplomacy, but military conquest must play a role, and biblical evidence supports this idea of a variety of tactics, you know? Daniel 11:21 says that he obtains the kingdom by flatteries and then he destroys it. Revelation 13:4 tells us that no one can stand against him. 2 Thessalonians 2:3 calls him the son of destruction. Daniel 8:24 says that he will cause fearful destruction and will succeed in what he does and destroy mighty men and the people who are the saints. Daniel 8:25, without warning, he will destroy many. So look out. Without warning, he will destroy many. Okay? Daniel 11:38 through 39 says that he honors a God of fortresses. And he will deal with the strongest fortresses with the help of a foreign god. In 2 Thessalonians 2, he's lawless. And in 1 John 2:22, he's a liar. And Revelation 13:5, he's boastful. So the Antichrist, he will utilize a variety of tactics. Economic, political, and military, okay? Even loading with honor those who acknowledge him. Making them rulers over many and dividing the land for a price in Daniel 11:39. His crown, though, this is interesting. His crown is a symbol. It's part of who he is, okay? He is a winner. He is victorious. That's what it means. So this is the crown that has traditionally been awarded to victors in athletic contests. Winning a contest actually requires a competition, right? It requires a person to have a competitive spirit, and somebody that has this hyper competitive spirit tends to be dominant. They love to win, right? And it says that the Antichrist, he went out conquering, and to conquer, he wanted to gain dominance. That's the goal here, meaning he is going to use the power of subjugation. And as a matter of fact, subjugate is a synonym for conquer. And then, you know, here's the truth. When you look up words, okay, you can learn so much about so many different things. And did you know that kings have used subjugation as a tool throughout history to conquer and dominate? This is a thing. This is really a thing. Merriam-Webster defines subjugation as the act of defeating, conquering, or bringing a person or group or nation under complete control and domination. It implies a state of total obedience, often enforced through oppressive power, enslavement, or the forced suppression of rights. This is what he will do, okay? Subjugation and conquest involve a combination of tactics. He will use economic destruction, military force, strategic terror, and psychological manipulation. Historical and modern methods typically include something called siege warfare. Now, this was so interesting to me. This siege warfare is actually a form of constant low intensity conflict. And you see it happening right now. Okay, it's happening right now. Wikipedia, this is where I got this information from. The aggressor surrounds their target, aiming to break its defenses through starvation, bombardment, or direct assault. It has historically been the primary method of conquest, requiring vast time and resources to force a stronghold surrender. What do you think we're doing right now? What do we do in Venezuela? What are we doing in Cuba? Right? We're using this specific siege warfare. This is the tactic that we're using right now. So, though he rides in on a white horse, all right, he is not a peacemaker, with the exception of his horrible Daniel 9:27 covenant, right? It's said that the people, most people, will do anything, and they will give up almost anything for peace and security. People will do that. All right? But, and this is what I found interesting. I saw an article in the Jerusalem Post titled, "Has Israel become a Trumpian vassal? Has Israel maintained autonomy or become the 51st U.S. state?" And, you know, the thing is, I don't know if most of you know what a vassal is, but it's a person or entity in feudal society who enters a mutual obligation with a lord or monarch, pledging loyalty and military service in exchange for protection and land. Doesn't that sound about right? So he's the boss. He's the boss, and he will subjugate. But this is exactly as the Bible describes, exactly everything happening. And the tactics, the person, all of it. So I do pray that if you don't believe he's the Antichrist, I pray that God opens your eyes, because, we need to make a decision. We need to make a decision and come out of deception. Okay, because the hour is getting later and we're not guaranteed tomorrow. We need to choose this day whom we will serve. So thank you for joining me. And I do pray that God spoke to you through this. And, I just want to thank you for taking your time to listen to my videos and to be a part of this ministry. And I do pray that God blesses you and that God gives you peace and joy at this time. And I'll see you later. Bye.